How do you get them to get out of telling that negative story? I know the list and things like that, but then are there any techniques to be able to tell these stories that align with those accomplishments?
I do work with them on their self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
With resumes, generally I help with that, but I don't dig deep in that. I usually point them and I do more or less point out that there's certain things that we love to do. That may not be what the market needs or wants.
Right.
So I help them understand that there's a value that you bring to the table, but what's the problem you solve?
Welcome to the Vision to Reality podcast. I'm your host, Curtis L. Jenkins, and in each episode, I speak with industry experts, thought leaders, and innovators to break down the strategies, techniques, and methods that turn their ideas into reality. Whether your vision is to scale your business, build and lead a winning team, prepare for your next big career move, this podcast is for you. Let's get started and bring your vision to reality. And welcome back to the Vision to Reality podcast, where we highlight accomplished leaders who have turned their personal and professional visions into reality. I'm your host, Curtis Jenkins, and today we're talking about bringing clarity to career chaos. And joining me in this conversation is Steve Walsh. Steve is a seasoned IT leader, executive coach, and keynote speaker with over 35 years of experience in the tech industry. From his early days as a developer to leading global teams at Microsoft and top-tier ERP firms, Steve has seen and solved it all. Today, he's on a mission to help IT professionals and organizations thrive in uncertain times. As a strategic career and leadership advisor, Steve empowers tech leaders to find clarity, build purpose-driven careers, and lead with confidence. He's especially passionate about helping organizations overcome miscommunication in complex tech projects so they can deliver on time, under budget, and with less stress. Steve's coaching philosophy is rooted in creating joyful experiences. Steve helps clients uncover their unique essence, develop a personal brand and mission, and stay focused without being derailed by fear, uncertainty, or doubt. Steve is a member of the Forbes Coaches Council and co-author of Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 13. Steve holds multiple coaching certifications and advanced degrees in technology management and business administration. Whether he's on stage, in a coaching session, or advising a tech team, Steve brings energy, empathy, and strategic insight into every conversation. Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Curtis. That's a great intro.
You're a very accomplished person, and I want to hear all about it. So talk to me more about what your mission is and why are you on this mission?
Yeah, it's interesting. Going from a tech background deep into writing code and fixing technical issues to shifting more towards the soft skills. As my career developed and I became a manager and a director, what I was noticing about a lot of the resources that were coming on my team was they were very into the tech, and that's their passion, right? But one of the things that I saw is that they lacked the ability to communicate to others, the folks that are not into tech. And so you get two tech guys in a room and they can have a blast. But I throw a third person or a fourth person that's not a technical person and they lose their audience. They lose that relationship with the other person. I started helping people with that and pointing it out to them and showing them that, hey, you just can't go deep into technical. You got to slow down a little bit, not use 100 acronyms in a sentence. So that became a little bit of a passion there. And then part of my own journey was just the personal development of learning how for myself to get from that tech perspective. One of the things that I believe, and I see this many times over and over, is that we get pigeonholed, right? That the managers, the directors, the decision makers, they see great talent in the tech side, but that's all they see is the technical component. And they don't realize that those are human beings, and those human beings have emotions, ideas, they have some thoughts, and we need to pull that out of those people so they can shine and live through their full potential. So that was kind of the journey that I went down and knew that I couldn't be the only one.
So let's speak about acronyms real quick, and then I'm going to ask why it's important to bridge the journey. As I was doing an introduction, I said ERP. And so Tell us what an ERP is.
Yeah, in the simplest form, it's an accounting system on steroids. So it's ERP is enterprise reporting and planning for really even small businesses have this where they have inventory, their resources as humans and any assets that they own are being tracked financially in the system. When you get into the enterprise level, there's multiple people, multiple divisions that are using the same system. And from a finance standpoint and decision maker standpoint, they use this system to be able to read key indicators, right? The things that they're trying to monitor and see the health of their business in real time. But it is a fancy financial system to keep track of everything.
Got it. Got it. I like to look at it like it's the backbone of the system, right? Especially of data and information, which is, when people say the proverbial lifeblood. Information goes in, decision makers can make decisions based off of that, especially financial decisions, because companies are just financial companies that happen to do a product or a service, because cash flow is king. And so as we talk about that, right? So one, having that communication, not using the acronyms, as you explained how the ERP system works and how it has to bridge across everybody in the company.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about why it's important to bridge that gap in communications from technical folks to business folks or non-technical folks. And so kind of give more details on why that's so important. And if somebody wants to advance in their career, that they need to master this.
Yeah. So most of my career has been in the consulting sides. You may hear words like system integrators, and they're the organizations that will come in and take a system either created by Oracle or SAP or Microsoft, and there's hundreds other companies that create these financial systems. And you bring in the consultants that know how to configure and set up those systems. But what gets lost, or the really should say it the other way, is the consultants that shine the most are the ones that are able to build that trusted advisor aspect and as a perception, right? I've had some very talented technical resources on my team that never built a good trust with the customer or the project manager. And so these customers that, certain things are going to happen on these long projects. They're generally not a weekend project. They're multiple months and sometimes multiple years, lots of people and the moving parts. And they need to be able to go to different resources and trust that the information that they're getting is valid, trust that what the person is committing to and expectations that it's going to get done, and that resource is willing to help them, especially when it comes down to a difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if that trust isn't there, that person that's having the challenges, that the executive sponsor or the person that's in charge of that project and making sure that things are either getting done or fixed or moved forward, they're going to go find their trusted resource. And so as technical resources, and so you can look at consulting like the system integrators, the third party organizations that come in to help. But if we look at organizations in a whole, they have an IT organization. And those IT organizations are generally cost centers to the company, but we can look at them and say they're internal consulting organizations as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order for someone to advance their career, they got to get out of tech mode and start building relationships outside of their department.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to go into the sales organization, which is one of the toughest organizations to go into from a tech side. Those guys move fast. They want answers. They don't have time for technical problems, right? And they need to be able to communicate and ensure that whatever problem or project they're working on can get delivered. And so they got to build that trust. And how do you do that? It's through communication.
So I want to continue on this journey around the communication, right? And I agree with you 100% how you have to get out of tech speak. You have to get out of your own department and you have to go out, right? And so one of the things that I've always said is that you don't do IT projects, you do business business enabling projects using technology.
That's right.
And the reason why I would rephrase it that way so that it's less about the issues or the technology, but more about how does it make the business better.
Right.
And so if you were going to advise someone on how to get out of IT, get out of their own way in the tech, what are some simple things that people can do to start to build their network and their understanding outside of IT to be a better partner?
Well, for one, if the company is having some sort of event, right,
Mm-hmm.
to show up.
Okay.
I mean, I do see a lot of tech guys that they don't understand the importance of going to certain, it might be after work event, it might be a town hall meeting or a training. Their passion is in tech. So you give them there's a lot of conferences that happen, and some technical folks, they just don't want to go to those. They'd rather take an online tech course, build their tech skills, which is all important stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because technology changes at a rapid pace, and we've got to have the new knowledge within the organization. But there's events, social events,
Mm-hmm.
and that the key is to get out there. I remember when I was first very young in my career, and I had a manager, and she said, "Okay, we're going to this social event, and I want each of you to get two business cards from someone that's not on our team." And I thought, what in the world would I want to do that for?
Yeah.
It was like going in front of a firing squad. I was like, what am I going to say to these people, right? And
Yeah.
so that was, when I was young and in the career path, I didn't want to go do that. I'd rather go sit back and dig into some code or go look at some data or something like that. But it was, hindsight type of thing is, you look at it and say that was probably one of the best things for her to put on the team was to get out there and meet people.
Okay. So, I got two business cards.
Yeah.
I'm doing what you told me to do, Steve. I went to the social event. I got two business cards. Now what am I doing?
Yeah. So that practice of two business cards was really not so much like, hey, let's follow up with these people, but to push us outside of our comfort zone.
Just break the shell, right?
Yeah, that's right. That you're not gonna die when you go shake someone's hand and introduce yourself to them. So that was the purpose of that. Uh, with LinkedIn, and that's what I do encourage people to do is, like, build your network, right?
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, reach out to people, introduce yourself, and have no expectation of getting anything really out of it other than just introducing yourself and getting to know the other person and make it all about the other person, but don't have any expectations. I think a lot of people, they think about networking when it's too late. Maybe they go through a layoff, or they get themselves in a position where they just need to get out for some reason, and they think about networking at that point. And then really, the reality is we need to be networking all the time and add value to those people. And it made at that time when you're just networking, you're just introducing yourself and you're expanding your network, but you're also expanding that other person's network. And so I do encourage my clients to start doing that on a regular basis with no expectations of there being any referrals or job offers or interviews or anything like that, but just to get out there and meet people.
Got it. So how I met you was through LinkedIn, and I wanted something. And what's happening right now is what I wanted, right? I wanted you to be on the show. But what I want you to share for me in terms of your clients, right? You said go in without an expectation. What am I saying? And why do I even want to connect with someone? Right. So if I don't want anything, what am I saying to network?
Yeah. So at some point in the future, you are going to need something.
Okay.
Right. And so if you're adding value to other people's lives, that comes back. It may not come back from that specific person that you added value to, but it comes back from someplace. It might be, someone that maybe you talked to 6 months down the road, and they see you online and they say, "Hey, I remember talking to that guy. Let me see what he's up to," right? And so I think that's what it's about. It's just adding value and without expectations, because sometimes when we do need help, we've got a big pool of people we can tap into and just reconnect with them.
Okay. So adding value, is that something like, let's say I saw your e-profile and the algorithm was fortunate enough to bring me to you just based off of my posts and based off of your posts and what you do, right? And so I'm out here trying to rewrite my next book on job search, and I'm interviewing professionals that either help people in the job search space or in the career space, which includes everything that we're talking about in terms of networking. And so would you advise your clients to sort of share articles or, see somebody and maybe say, "Hey, I see that you're in some kind of business, some kind of tech or whatever, or you're part of this company." Would you have them sort of bring them some kind of value, like an article, share with them a story, maybe even highlight a connection that's mutual to
Mhm.
see if there's a connection there. What are some of the things that you get? Because what I'm imagining and why I'm drilling down on this is because I'm that tech guy first. First, why do I have to go get 2 business cards, right? So why do I have to break the show? And then 2, if I don't know what to do to network, I need your help to tell me, give me some practical tips on doing this because I don't know how to engage with it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, good question. I think that's certainly. I think a lot of people struggle with that, right? And and so what I would tell people that are struggling, like, okay, what do I do? Just set up a 10-15 minute call
Hmm.
and ask about who they are,
Hmm.
right? How they got into their current position, and if there's anything that they're struggling with or challenged with that you could help out with. So one of the things that I do for my clients, or just in general, I just started this recently, is I'm having an open networking call
Hmm.
where people can join. It doesn't cost anybody. They join and I have it twice a month. And the intent is to get people in. They can ask questions and anyone can answer the questions. But most importantly, what I do is do breakouts and I put people in breakout rooms, and the whole purpose of that breakout room is just to meet with each other.
Hmm.
So putting them in that position of, okay, you've got someone, go get their business card and ask them, tell me how you got to your current role. Is there anything you're currently looking for? Especially like right now, there's a good number of technical people that are in transition at some level. Either they were forced with the layoffs from the different tech organizations, or they're at a point where they're looking for that next level. So providing that service of just connecting people so they can network, connect with those people, and as they go through, and I've seen this and I encourage them to do that, is if someone is looking for a position, as they're looking through, they come across different things that maybe it's not a good fit for themselves,
Hmm.
but they think about that person I just met last week, and they can forward that posting over to them and say, hey, here's something. Or if they're talking to people and they come across someone that's looking for something, maybe they make that connection. That's that adding value and giving out, right? That go giver type process, right? There's a book out there. It's called The Go Giver, and it's just about.
I like that. The Go Giver.
I didn't come up with it. It's a book.
No, but I like that title, right? We always hear go getter. I've never heard go giver. I like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you haven't read that book, it's a good story. It's not just
Okay.
a textbook. It's a storyline, easy read.
Okay. I'm on it. So, all right. So you give them these practical tips and then they follow the tips. Tell me about someone who followed your tips that was an exceptional story for you. And in this story, it was so exceptional that you became different. You grew from it. Is there somebody that you helped in that space changed as a result for the better?
So I don't know about the networking component, right? If
Yep.
for someone's doing that, but what I have seen, I have a client that she is struggling to get the position that she wanted. Instead of doing, she was already doing the networking. One of the things I did tell her is that you need to become known as an expert.
Mhm.
And she's a project manager, and the advice I gave her was, why don't you start creating uh, like a newsletter or a blog, something that highlights your knowledge,
Mhm.
and just constantly put it out there, and people will start following it, and then you connect with those people that are hitting the likes and commenting on their postings. But it also gives her something that hiring managers can go look at. If they're struggling to decide between 2 candidates, she's got samples and basically her thought process of how she would manage projects out on blogs that managers can go and look and say, okay, this person is proving her value, right? And so recently I just learned that she's been doing that because I've been following her postings for a number of months, but I've also saw that she took up a speaking role at one of the Project Management Institute chapters, right?
Mhm.
So that extra push, stepping out of the comfort zone. And so now that comfort zone has grown. Now the next step for her was to take that other step. So here, seeing in action, because a lot of times my clients we work with each other for a few months, and I give them all what they what I believe they need at the time, right? And then they go on, and then you start to see those fruits really start to grow when they're leaning into their new perspective of how they're strategically playing out their career roles.
And so what did that do for you?
Well, certainly from a from a coaching standpoint, it confirms like, okay, at least someone's listening, but at least with the components that I'm advising or suggesting are good advice, right?
Got it. It works, right? It works.
That's right.
Okay. So let's do a little timeline here. And I kind of understand the timeline from a career to the career coaching. Let's go all the way back. And, growing up, did you see yourself in IT? Did you want to be a fireman? Tell me about what you wanted. And then how'd you end up in IT?
Well, so, right. Age myself here.
You don't have to say the years.
I think anyone in tech is going to figure this out, right? So when I was,
right?
Yeah. So I definitely didn't vision going into deep tech roles. Actually, a childhood dream would be to be an Air Force officer. And so when I went to college, I was in ROTC.
Mm-hmm.
And the time that I was applying for the ROT or for the officership, the number of available spots were pretty tight. So you had to pretty much be a student in engineering. I was a business. My studies was in information systems. So it was lean technical, but it wasn't like super technical. I started out as a math major and then got to calculus. I was like, man, there's way too much homework.
I've been.
So then I went over to the engineering college and said, and they still had the calculus. I was like, yeah, I'm just not going to cross that path. There's got to be a better way. And then I went over to the business college and found computer information systems. And I go, this sounds like something that I'd enjoy doing. So I changed majors to be the business. But with the Air Force qualifications, there were some things there that I just couldn't get past. So took a different role, didn't go into the Air Force and dug deep into business. But prior to college, I owned a Commodore 64.
Now the years are coming out.
Yeah. And so I actually ran a dial-up bulletin board system. If someone was into tech, they knew, but take their normal phone and basically call my phone, right? And my computer would answer, and the two computers would talk, and they could see postings from what other people had for tech, whatever the topic was. It was all text. There was no graphics. The videos were not there. You could text like we text today with the phones, with our cell phones. We text. You could have chats like that, but you had to be dialed in.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, I actually grew a network of bulletin board systems. And we all like changed our names and had a theme. So I was in that, and in high school, went into basic computer class, and it was the typing teacher giving the class, and you could tell she barely knew what she was talking about. So while she was talking back there, I was having the TRS 80 that was on there do a bunch of dancing and everyone's kind of looking at my screen, and she kind of came over to see what I was doing. She's like, well, how'd you do that? So next thing I know, I'm in front of the class teaching them how to code. So just always been on the development side of computers. And then, my first job out of college was a programmer role, and it was around databases. So it was the company I worked for delivered phone books. So I don't know when's the last time you saw a phone.
Donnelly or Donnelly?
No. It was. The company is Product Development Corporation, so they were the deliverers, but all of the major phone companies used. There was basically two companies out there that did this, and this company had majority of the deliveries.
Got it.
So one of my first lessons in computers was we got the file for 9X. It was 2 million customers. And I was manipulating the data. And next thing I know, I was like, what happened to the data? Ended up erasing the file. So we had to go back to the customer and get a new one, and had to tuck our tails and say, that file you sent to us a month ago, we need another copy. So learned a lesson there about backups.
Got it. Hey, you haven't had a good career if you haven't screwed up at least once or twice.
That's right. That's right. You got to cross that line a few times, right?
Oh yeah. Like I say, you become a man until your heart is broken through love, and you don't get a good career if you
That's
haven't
right.
up
Well,
royally.
you gotta learn the hard way, but one of
Yeah,
the biggest lessons is don't make that mistake twice.
that's right. Be someplace else making a different mistake, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
I connect with you on this Air Force thing, man. I wanted to go into the Air Force to follow my uncle,
mm,
and primarily because I grew up in the city and he had a house with grass. So I equated that to being rich. And, I too struggled with calculus and the grades because I actually wanted to be an Air Force pilot. And part of that was because of Star Wars.
ah,
So the other thing that came out on the other side for me was, yes, I wanted to get in dogfights in the air,
mm,
but you're actually killing people when you do that. So it didn't register for me at the time, right? I just thought it would be cool to fly planes and shoot them down,
yeah,
although I didn't get the grades. But then, I became a little bit more conscious about exactly what's happening. So, well, maybe that's not it anyway. So I never made it through on that career. Hey, I just wanted to take a quick break to say thank you for tuning in to the Vision to Reality podcast. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready to level up your business or career, I've got some great resources for you. To turn your business vision into reality, my book, Vision to Reality, Start Working, Start Living, is available now and filled with strategies to help you bring your goals to life. Plus, the companion Vision to Reality digital workbook is the perfect tool to guide you step by step through the process. You can grab both at curtisljenkins.com. And if you're preparing for your next job search, check out my book, The Only Job Search Book You Will Ever Need. This book uses proven marketing strategies that have been used for over 60 years to help you rise above competition to land your dream job. You can grab your copy at curtisljenkins.com. And I have great news. This book will be updated with a new version that includes recent impacts on the job search process, such as remote work, AI, government policy changes, and much more. Thanks again for listening. Now let's get back to the conversation. But the part that I was trying to say around the Air Force and my uncle having a house, being on base with grass, coming from the city and being rich, I want to now go over to you because you wrote volume 13 or participated. I don't know. You're going to tell me what your role was on breaking the rich code. And you did this with Tony Robbins. So you gotta tell me this whole story around this. This sounds fascinating.
yeah, yeah. So it's with Jim Britt. It's actually Jim Britt's series, and
And who's Jim Britt?
Jim Britt. So he's tied in with Jim Rohn, and Tony Robbins. So Jim Britt and Jim Rohn, and this is a story that Jim told me when I was meeting him.
Mm-hmm.
That when Jim Rohn was starting out in his career, he was in network marketing, and Jim Britt was with him at that point.
Mm-hmm.
When Jim Rohn left, that Jim Britt stayed with Jim Rohn, and they created Jim Rohn's speaking business. And so Jim Britt was kind of basically the sales manager. He was the guy that was responsible for filling the stadiums.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tony Robbins was one of the kids that showed up, and Jim Britt hired Tony to go out there and hustle and help fill the seats. And certainly from there, Tony Robbins grew and had that vision from Jim Rohn. So that's how Jim Britt knows Tony Robbins. And so Tony Robbins, he endorsed Jim's book series.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, that's allowed to use the picture of Tony Robbins, and so there's an endorsement of the book from Tony Robbins on that. Brian Tracy wrote the foreword of the one that I'm in, and then there's one of the sharks, drawing a blank on his name, but he has a chapter in the book as well. So Jim Britt has organized several author folks that are in our space. They're coaches, speakers, authors, and he's been gathering about 20 authors together, and they create this Crack the Rich Code book. And so there's 20 people in the book. Each have their perspective of what is rich and how to get there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My perspective, my portion is going from an individual contributor on the tech side and what I had to do to become a manager. So breaking the pattern of being, that pigeonhole I mentioned earlier. How do I break that and get into management? And what I saw from just paying attention of the people that I was looking around going, how do I get into management? I've applied for several positions, had several interviews, but I'm not getting there. And what I noticed was the tech guys dress one way and the managers dress another way. The tech guys talk one way, managers talk a different way. And so I really dug in and started studying what's different, right? And the first thing I noticed was tech guys show up in polo shirts, slacks, and the managers have the jackets. When they come on site, they all look similar. So I said, all right, I'm going to start dressing like the managers. And so one of the things that I realized is that in order for you to get invited to the manager table, they have to see you as a manager, right? And so they need to see themselves in you. And they may see, hey, you're a smart guy, you know the technical pieces, you're dependable. You've got all the great stuff for delivery, but you don't look like me. There's no relationship there, right? And so that's kind of one of the things I talk about in my chapter is paying attention to what does the managers do? What are they talking about? Are they going to the golf course? Or are they doing something different? And try to get in on that inner circle. So it doesn't matter what you want to do. It's how do they perceive you? Right? If they perceive you as a technical person, you're probably going to stay as a technical person. If they see you as someone that can rise to that next level and take care of a team, and then you're going to get invited to that table. And that's the same with anyone. And one of the challenges I do see is, especially in the consulting world, consultants will deliver. They have different metrics. One that we've talked about a lot is utilization, and that utilization is the number of hours you can bill and bring revenue into the organization. Great consultants will surpass the 40 hours a week of billable, not just one or two times a year. It's a consistent. And so those individuals will get promoted to manager because they're a high performer, right? But they have no idea how to run a team, talk to a team, help other people to get to where they were at, but they're really good at what they do, right? So they got to figure that out. They got to figure out how to manage people. But if they want to go up to the next level, not just manager, but up to that director or VP level, that's when they got to start looking around and saying, how do I go from where I'm at now to the next level? And it's generally not what got you to that first level to begin with. So you've got to figure out what that is. And it's like a combination lock, right? That's not one thing that's going to change your career overnight. But if you're aware and start paying attention to see what that next level looks like and how they perform and what's important to them, and start making those modifications in your own performance, then they'll start to see you as someone that's at their level.
How often do your clients or people that you know in this space get imposter syndrome? You're telling them, hey, you got to be seen as one of them. And they got ice water going through their veins, right? Because I'm not one of them. I'll never be one of them. Tell me what you do to get over some of these things that people put in their own brains that limit them.
Yeah. So I imposter syndrome, it comes in many forms, but it's real. And I think if you're not experiencing imposter syndrome at some level of your career, you're probably not pushing yourself.
I agree. Look, I'm also speaking from experience when I ask you this question.
Yeah. So I do tell them that, it's normal, but you wouldn't be in that position, right? You wouldn't be pushing yourself, especially like let's say you do get invited to go to that next level and you're looking around, it's like, there's no way I'm performing it at this level. Well, someone saw something in you,
right,
that you're ready to go to this next level, right? So you have to remember that. And you also have to remember that everybody else that's around you at your same level that's doing something similar is probably thinking the same thing, that I shouldn't be here and I'm going to work my tail off to hide my shortcomings and just keep pushing forward, right? There is a practice I do have. What I have my clients do is early in when they connect with me is list out all of their achievements So from middle school all the way up to where they're at today is list out all of their achievements and review that regularly, right? Just as you review maybe your goals on a regular basis, review what you've achieved. Because I think we forget where we've come from and some of the we all have our own stories, our own paths, our own challenges, and what may seem like a small step for a lot of other people might be a big step for us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can take through that, do your different breakthroughs, achieve different things, you can do the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just having them remind themselves that, hey, I had this huge path, and I look at all the things I have done, and all the recognition I have gotten in the past. So yeah, I might feel uncomfortable right now, and I don't feel like I'm able to do this, but someone saw something in me, and look where I've come. So I must be ready for this next event.
Yeah, I think that's a great exercise. And one of the things I find, especially those that haven't looked for a job in a while, right? So, and I think the biggest issue that I see is people not practicing on the same things for growing in their career in the same company as they would be as if they were leaving to go to another company. And it's sort of the same thing, right? It's about how you are going to tell your story, how you market yourself, and how you demonstrate value. One of the hardest things I've seen people be able to do is not just list the accomplishments, but to put it in a language that helps show value. So it's not just that you were the president of the class, right? But
Right.
that you showed exceptional leadership and that you had X number of students, one, who voted for you, and two, that you were responsible for, and you accomplished these three things that are quantifiable and things that are easy to understand if somebody's evaluating you for that. I
Right.
find so one, I want to ask you about that in terms of how do you help people through that. But the second thing that you said was you talked about storytelling or telling your own story, and being able to do that is a skill as well. And do you work with your clients on being able to tell their stories to get over the fears that, because it's the stories that they tell themselves is what creates the imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get them to get out of telling that negative story? I know the list and things like that, but then are there any techniques to be able to tell these stories that align with those accomplishments?
I do work with them on their self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
With resumes, generally I help with that, but I don't dig deep in that. I usually point them and I do more or less point out that there's certain things that we love to do. That may not be what the market needs or wants.
Right.
So I help them understand that there's a value that you bring to the table, but what's the problem you solve?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And to highlight that problem solving. I had one client, she talked deep in her resume was she resolved conflicts, but at the very top she was talking about leading teams, right? She didn't mention conflicts.
Right.
And so I was like, well, why don't you put that, like, the first few sentences they're going to read is that summary at the top. So let's highlight that one of your specialties is resolving conflict and chaos and creating high performing teams. So that changed the theme of her resume.
Mm-hmm.
And so right away it tells people who she is and what problems she solves in the market. So I help people look at it from a different angle. So one of the things that I love doing is helping people figure out really why are they here?
Mm.
Their God-given purpose.
Mm.
And what, we're all here to serve each other in some way. But how do we do that? Right? And so we all serve in different ways. We're all here to be helpers in a certain way. We do it our way. And when we understand what that is, and by putting a couple words around what that is, then we know who we are and what we like to do. And when we communicate, the words we say is only 10% of the communication. 90% is how we say it, right? How we show up.
Yeah.
And so if you understand your way of helping other people, then you can lean into that. And now you're not talking about words, you're talking about you're showing up the way you need to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you go to that higher level of performance. So if someone has that knowledge and they can lean into that when they tell their stories, they're going to connect with the other person a lot faster and a lot better. And the person on the end is like, I have no idea what that person said, but man, they brought the energy. I felt like they had the confidence. They knew what was going on, right? Where the other person is so focused on getting the right words in
Yeah.
the interview,
Yep.
right? They're focused on the 10%, not the 90%,
Yeah.
right? So they can say all the right words and still not hit home with the person that's interviewing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that confidence over competence that
Yeah.
is often spoken about, right? And I've had that be a hard lesson for me. I always wanted to be just pristine, right on with words, and I was just working my way out of every situation because I had no personality behind it. I wasn't exhibiting the confidence that I thought I had. I thought that if I exhibited more competence and was just pristine with my words, not in a way that engaged, but just almost like a textbook, then that was doing the right thing. But I found out that is not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
well, I got to ask you a couple more questions. And the first question I got to ask you is, what is a question that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share today?
I think that we kind of touched base on this last bit is the separation, right? What makes me different from the other coaches that are out there, all the career coaches, and there's a lot, and the ability to help people dig deep into who they are
Mm-hmm.
and find that specific how they show up, how they serve other people, what really gets them to perform, to enjoy what they're doing. And that's what separates me from everybody else. That it's not so much the tech component. That's where I come from, so I understand those problems. When people bring those challenges, I can dig into those. The essence of who you are and how you help other people is the key to how you're going to perform. And it doesn't matter what your career is. It's how you show up when you volunteer, how you show up for your family, how you show up for any interaction. If it's a career or maybe it's a social event, it can change you. I had one client, we just dug in and her thing was all about fun.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't care what she was doing as long as it was all about fun. But I literally, we had a networking event and I was already in the room and there was several people already in the room and it was just this boring, like, get me out of here type of situation. And she literally, when she crossed that threshold at that door, the atmosphere changed instantly. I couldn't explain it, but I saw like, wow, we went from a dead room to the party just showed up when she entered the room. So that was what she brought to the table, was just making things more fun and enjoying life, right? And so it's kind of a 2-hour process that I take people through. And when it got down to it, that was what we discovered, was that it's fun. That was her thing.
Yeah.
So we wrote her mission statement around that. And so, when she goes into work, she now knows that it's okay to bring some fun into her work, right? That's going to make not only her productive, but her team's going to be productive because they're going to have a good time doing what she likes to do and brings that to the table.
Awesome. You made me think of another thing here. And what that is as you're working with your clients now, how would you characterize their fears or their willingness to embrace AI?
I have a lot of fear around AI. Old school for me.
So you have fear around AI?
Yeah. This is one technology that, I've lived through the 2000 different technologies. And this is one technology that I have seen move so fast.
Yeah.
So many tools are popping up and different things it's amazing to see. I use it in my business to draw up, my social media posts. It's certainly saving me some time, even some email responses. Like, how do I respond to this person? And, I put my thoughts in there and it comes back with something a little bit that, I could tone it down or tone it up or make it crispier. I can do things, but there's so much out there. So I think that, certainly fear is and just in general, fear is a healthy thing. If you don't have that, you're not thinking about the ramifications. You're not, you don't have the awareness. You're just letting it pass by. So if you've got fear, that probably is an indicator that, okay, so you recognize that there's something new there and you probably need to dig into a little bit. So So when around AI, I would encourage people to start finding ways to utilize it and understand it a little bit better. There's a lot there, and it's moving super fast, and you gotta dig in and let it be part of your workday, um, and figure out which components make most sense to you. And there is a lot out there. I'll definitely admit that.
Are your clients coming to you with the fear that they will not get their next job because AI will take those jobs from them?
I really haven't had that
Okay.
yet. A lot of the clients that are coming to me, there's two kind of paths. One is they're getting promoted and they're looking around going, how did I get here, and
Mhm.
how do I shine, right? So I can keep the momentum going. And I also have a lot of consultants that are switching from the consulting arena and going into the end user accounts.
Mm.
And so they're getting into a position where they're not just advisors, but they're owners of programs or systems. They're coming from a place where they haven't been before, and they're not sure it's not a short term in and out, do the missionary type work and get out, right? You're not a hired gun. You're bringing in to own the system for a long term. So they're coming in as like, how do I network? How do I cross the paths of not only meeting the expectations of the CIO, because they're generally going into the tech departments, but how do I navigate and balance the demands from the customer service, the sales, the distribution teams?
Mhm.
Because now they're expecting all this work, and it's not about, well, can we afford another 40 hours for this consultant to take a look at this project, right? They're coming to someone that has the knowledge and the skills to really change their systems around, but they don't report to those people, so they're kind of balancing a different situation. So there's two paths that I'm currently seeing. I haven't really seen the AI. I think AI is like anything. It's technology, and you got to learn how to manage it.
Mhm.
A lot of what I do is around the soft skills, and soft skills are not going to go away. So those that can master both the AI and soft skills are going to be in better shape. I would just let people know that it's not all about the technology. We're still humans, right? Sometimes so I use Microsoft Copilot as one of my main AI tools. I was telling my wife the other day, is like, I feel like I have an assistant now that I can talk to. When you're a solo entrepreneur, you go these long days with just dealing with either uh, text messages with people that are coming in, or clients, but sometimes you just need someone in the office that you can share ideas with. Well, now I'm becoming good friends with my co.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's raised the bar there, right? Gave us
Yep.
that extra boost.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to thank you for sharing not only that tip, but the other tips that you've shared. Great insights for just sharing about your career and how you help other people. It was a great conversation for me. But before we leave, can you tell us, tell the audience how they can connect with you?
Yeah. I'm gonna just give my website out there. They can contact me directly, and there's a resource out there page. And on the resource page, there's all types of things. Like they can look at the Cracking the Rich Code book, and there's also information about how to connect on that free call that I do twice a month, where they can come in, network, talk, ask questions. So multiple things that they can do there. So the website is Be Exceptional. It's number two, the letter B, and the word exceptional.com. And they can go there and explore all the different things I've out there for different resources. And certainly they can set up a 15-minute call with me, or if they want to send an email out, that's all out there too.
Awesome. And we'll take all that and we'll link them in our show notes. And I want to thank you for being a wonderful guest. And to everyone that's listening, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Vision to Reality podcast. And until next time, keep bringing your visions into reality. Thank you. That's a wrap on today's episode of the Vision to Reality podcast. A huge thank you to today's guests. You can find all of their contact information in any resources mentioned in the show notes below. Also, can you do me a big favor? If you found today's conversation valuable, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a comment, and a review, and share it with a friend or colleague who could benefit from the information shared today. And remember, vision without action is just a dream. Let's turn those big ideas into reality. I'll see you in the next episode.